to talk a bit more about that virtual summit today. I'm joined now by our foreign affairs commentator, Douglas Herbert. And Doug, why is it that Biden and Xi Jinping are talking now?
Because basically they have no choice. Look, all roads in Joe Biden's foreign policy lead to China. We saw the consequences of that recently with the submarine dust-up between the U.S. and France. China is the nexus, the hub, the epicenter of all practically all foreign policy decisions, whether we're talking about trade, whether we're talking about cybersecurity, whether we're talking about the militarization of the South China Sea, whether we're talking about the giant issue of Taiwan, at least giant from China's perspective. The list goes on and on and on. You could say that this conversation is long overdue. Now, it's a virtual summit, meaning they will not be sitting face to face. And we know that Joe Biden is a man who likes that personal, sort of more physical diplomacy, believes that it has a different quality, obviously, when you have that chemistry there of two leaders sitting next to each other and really speaking. But it's better than nothing. They've spoken by phone already a couple of times this year. And what's interesting is Joe Biden and Xi Jinping, at least when Joe Biden was vice president, he claims, Joe Biden, to have probably spent more time, and not just virtually, in person with Xi Jinping than any other world leader. Now, you could fact check that claim if you want, but it sounds plausible. For Joe Biden, he has to talk. He really has to speak to Xi Jinping. This is right now a phase where the U.S. sees itself as being increasingly and extremely fierce, stiffer and stiffer competition with China on just about every front. It's really the nation that is the compulsive obsession of the U.S. from almost any standpoint. And the fear among many people in Washington, including Joe Biden, is that this stiff competition in the trade area, in the industrial area, in the economic forum, could accidentally spill over into outright escalation, some sort of conflict, a military conflict, an escalation no one wants. So really what it is talking's always better than not talking. As bad and as sour and as Cold War-ish as we heard in that subject the relations have gotten lately, better to talk than not to talk, even if there are areas of disagreement and ideological clashes are going to be far broader than the things they can actually agree on.
What do you think each of them is hoping to get out of today?
Well, we know what each is going to get out of it because each has been sort of explicit in what they want. Joe Biden has sort of a three-pronged approach. He's first going to make it very clear that the United States intends to compete and compete very aggressively with China in the industrial and the trade arenas. And he's also equally going to make it clear that the nature, just because the U.S. is going to be competing with China, doesn't mean the U.S. wants to go to war with China. And it doesn't mean that when Joe Biden brings up to Xi Jinping, as the White House has indicated he will, issues of the human rights, issues that China perennially likes to shrug off when the U.S. brings it up as being sort of like, well, the U.S. has to talk about that. But human rights in Hong Kong, human rights against the Uyghur minority in the Xinjiang region of China, all of those issues. And finally, trade and cybersecurity. Xi Jinping, what is he going to talk about? He's probably going to give the U.S. some marching orders and a warning about Taiwan to not interfere, as he sees it, too much in what we consider our renegade province, our rightful province, and one that we intend to get back in the near future rather than later.
Doug Herbert, thanks very much indeed.